Welcome back to the channel, where everything is explained. Today, we are taking an in-depth look at political ideologies, economic systems, and modern forms of government, to understand how different societies organize power, authority, and human freedom. Liberalism. This idea centers on individual liberty, equal rights, and the belief that governments exist primarily to protect these personal freedoms. Emerging during the Enlightenment as a rejection of absolute monarchies and state-enforced religion, it introduced foundational concepts like free speech, private property, and the rule of law. What makes it unique is its trust in constitutional systems and open markets to foster progress and fairness. Today it underpins most modern Western democracies, shaping everything from legal systems to international human rights standards. Conservatism. This approach prioritizes social stability, traditional institutions, and a cautious attitude toward rapid societal change. Rooted in the political philosophy of thinkers reacting to the chaos of the French Revolution, it argues that long-standing customs, moral frameworks, and established structures carry accumulated wisdom that protects society from breakdown. Rather than opposing change entirely, it advocates for slow, organic evolution that preserves existing social order. Its impact is widely seen in political movements that champion fiscal restraint, local community authority, and the preservation of historic cultural values. Socialism. Built around the idea that resources and wealth should be owned and managed collectively by society rather than by private corporations, this concept aims to reduce economic inequality. It gained significant momentum during the Industrial Revolution, as workers faced harsh labor conditions, stagnant wages, and unsafe environments. By placing public interest over individual profit, it seeks to guarantee access to essential needs like healthcare, education, and housing for all citizens. Modern variations influence democratic welfare systems across the globe, funding public infrastructure and social safety nets. Communism. Aiming for a classless and stateless society, this philosophy seeks the complete abolition of private property in favor of common ownership of all means of production. Originating in the radical political writings of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels during the 19th century, it views human history through the lens of economic struggle between workers and the ruling class. In theory, state control is supposed to be a temporary transitional phase, before the government dissolves completely, though historical applications often resulted in highly centralized authority. Its legacy remains one of the most heavily debated and influential movements of the 20th century. Fascism. Placing the nation or race above the individual, this authoritarian belief system relies on autocratic leadership, strict social hierarchy, and heavy state control over society and the economy. Rising to prominence in Europe during the turbulent period between the two world wars, it rejects both democratic governance and class struggle, in favor of militaristic unity and extreme nationalism. It relies on forced conformity, suppression of political opposition, and aggressive foreign policy to achieve collective national renewal. The catastrophic outcome of these regimes in the mid-20th century established it as a primary historical warning against total political dominance. Anarchism. Resting on the complete rejection of forced hierarchy and state power, this perspective envisions a society built entirely on voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, and self-governed communities. Developing alongside modern industrial political thought, it views centralized government as inherently coercive and damaging to human freedom. Unlike common misperceptions that associate it solely with chaos, its historical theorists proposed organized, decentralized networks, where decisions are made directly by the people affected by them. It continues to inspire anti-authoritarian movements and direct action social projects around the world. Libertarianism. Placing maximum personal autonomy at the absolute center of its worldview, this philosophy advocates for a strictly minimized role for government in both economic and social life. Drawing heavily from classical liberal economic thought, it contends that individuals should be free to make their own choices, as long as those actions do not infringe upon the equal rights of others. It views high taxation, state regulations, and government interventions as unnecessary encroachments on personal freedom. Its core ideas heavily shape contemporary discussions around economic deregulation, civil liberties, and digital privacy. Social democracy. Combining a capitalist market economy with strong social policies, this framework uses democratic processes to reform economic systems rather than replace them. Formed as a moderate offshoot of socialist movements, it accepts private enterprise, but uses government regulation, progressive taxation, and strong public services to protect citizens from market failures. It argues that genuine freedom requires not just legal rights, but basic material security, like universal healthcare, paid leave, and strong labor protections. This model serves as the foundation for the political and economic systems found across much of Northern Europe. Monarchy. Defined by a system of governance where authority is embodied in a single sovereign ruler, who holds power through heredity or royal succession, this is one of humanity's oldest political forms. Historically operating as absolute systems where the monarch possessed unchecked power over the state and law, modern versions are overwhelmingly constitutional. In constitutional setups, the monarch serves primarily as a symbolic head of state, while real legislative authority rests with an elected parliament. This structure allows countries to maintain historic institutional continuity while fully preserving democratic decision-making processes. Authoritarianism. Relying on centralized control and the concentration of power in the hands of a single ruler or small elite, this system demands strict obedience from the public at the expense of personal freedoms. Throughout history, it has taken many forms, from historical absolute monarchies to modern military dictatorships and single-party states. Unlike total ideological movements, it is often pragmatic, prioritizing political survival, order and control, over a specific philosophical vision for society. It remains a widespread political reality, shaping how millions of people experience governance today. Totalitarianism. Representing an extreme form of authoritarian rule, this system seeks total state control over every single aspect of public and private life. Rather than simply suppressing political dissent, it actively mobilizes citizens through ideology, propaganda, state-controlled media, and pervasive secret police surveillance. Historical examples from the 20th century showed how such regimes forced complete alignment across education, culture, economics, and personal relationships. It serves as a distinct category of governance defined by its ambition to eliminate the boundary between individual life and state power. Nationalism. Centered on the belief that a nation, defined by shared culture, language, history, or values, should be the primary basis for political loyalty and statehood. This political force emphasizes national sovereignty and self-determination. It grew rapidly in the 18th and 19th centuries, helping to dismantle multi-ethnic empires and form modern nation-states. While it can foster powerful civic unity, shared identity and independence movements, it can also lead to exclusion, xenophobia and conflict with neighboring nations. It remains one of the most potent motivators in global affairs today. Neoliberalism. Championing free market capitalism, deregulation, reduced government spending, and the privatization of state-owned industries. This economic ideology gained dominance in the late 20th century. Emerging as a response to economic stagnation in the 1970s, it argues that market competition is the most efficient mechanism for driving human innovation, organizing resources, and generating societal wealth. Its policies transformed international trade, accelerated globalization, and reshaped global financial institutions over recent decades. Today it sits at the heart of debates regarding income inequality, corporate power, and global supply chains. Green politics. Prioritizing ecological sustainability, environmental protection, grassroots democracy, and non-violence. This political framework views human society as an interconnected part of the natural world. Developing in the late 20th century alongside growing public awareness of pollution and resource depletion, it challenges traditional economic models that prioritize endless industrial growth. It argues that long-term social stability requires restructuring economies toward renewable energy conservation and systemic environmental justice. Its principles have shifted global policy agendas, making climate action a central focus of modern international governance. Theocracy. Operating on the principle that divine guidance or religious law serves as the ultimate authority for state governance. This political system vests power directly in religious leadership or legal codes based on sacred texts. Historically common across ancient civilizations, modern implementations integrate religious jurisprudence directly into national legal and political institutions. In these societies, government policy, civil laws, and personal rights are defined through religious doctrine, rather than secular debate. It offers a distinct model of legitimacy, where political duty and religious obedience are treated as identical obligations. Populism. Positioning the general public as a morally virtuous group locked in opposition to a corrupt, self-serving political or economic elite. This strategy operates across the entire political spectrum. It emerges most strongly during periods of economic anxiety, cultural shift, or widespread distrust in established institutions. Rather than offering a rigid set of economic theories, it adopts left-wing or right-wing stances depending on who is framed as the establishment, and who is framed as the people. Its influence frequently reshapes traditional party politics, forcing legacy institutions to directly confront public dissatisfaction. Capitalism. Anchored by private ownership of property, and the distribution of goods through competitive free markets. This economic system relies on supply and demand to set prices and drive production. Accelerating dramatically during the Industrial Revolution, it replaced feudal economic structures and unlocked unprecedented technological innovation and global trade expansion. Its supporters emphasize its ability to generate vast wealth, reward individual initiative, and efficiently allocate resources across society. Critics point to issues like wealth concentration, market instability, and environmental strain, making its regulation a permanent feature of modern governance. Democracy. Rooted in the belief that sovereign political power belongs to the collective body of citizens, this framework establishes governance through direct popular voting or elected representatives. Originating in ancient city-states like Athens, and expanding through modern constitutional systems, it rests on principles of civic participation, civil liberties, and government accountability. Its primary strength lies in its ability to allow peaceful transitions of power through established electoral rules. Today it remains the primary model of legitimacy for governments across the globe, continually adapting to new social, technological, and economic challenges. Subscribe to the channel to explore more deep dives into food, history, philosophy, and global politics.